Metal Gear Solid 3 was released in 2004, and since then it's received different ports and re-releases, including a full-on remake for PS5. And as such, it can be a bit tricky to know which version would be the most ideal one to play, since there's notable differences across all of them. Nowadays, the most accessible one to play aside the remake is the Master Collection version. But is it truly the best version to play? Yeah, maybe. But nevertheless, I want to outline the differences between the different versions of MGS3, and you'll find that there's more merit to the other versions than you might think. So here's what to know about them. First, we have Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater and Subsistence on the PS2. And right off the bat, the biggest difference between the two that you'll notice is the camera angle. The original Snake Eater only had this fixed overview camera angle perspective, whereas in Subsistence they changed it to be a complete free roaming camera. And you can actually toggle back and forth between camera perspectives by pressing L3. Subsistence is an improved version of the original game, much like Metal Gear Solid 2's Substance was to Sons of Liberty. And these are essentially the go-to versions of both games, coming in with a bunch of new content. Unlike the original Snake Eater, Subsistence came in 2 discs. The first disc was basically the main game, whereas disc 2 is where the bonus content is, such as online mode, which has long since been defunct, a boss battle mode, the secret theater mode where you can view comedic parody versions of the game's cutscenes, the original 2 MSX Metal Gear games, and the Snake vs. Monkey side mode, which as you can tell was a crossover with the Ape Escape franchise. Now, Snake vs. Monkey was in the original Snake Eater, but the Subsistence version adds a couple new levels. The original MSX games were also part of the original release too, so they were just moved to disc 2 for this release. There was also a special edition of MGS3 Subsistence that came with a 3rd disc called Existence, and all that really was is just a rendition of the game's cutscenes to be presented in a more cinematic or movie-like way. I honestly kind of questioned the point of this release. Or you could say I question the existence of this release. However, this wasn't the last release of MGS3 on the PS2, because in 2008 they released the Essentials collection for PS2. This isn't a compilation disc though. All it was is just a repackaged release of MGS 1, 2, and 3. They were in separate cases but came in a big box to house all 3 of them, so a box set. The unfortunate thing about this release is that while it uses the Subsistence version of the game, it didn't come with the 2nd disc that featured all the bonus content I mentioned. So in that sense, it comes with less content than even the original Snake Eater release, even though it technically plays better. It's really ironic of them to call this the Essentials collection, but it takes away the original 2 MSX games since they were both in disc 2 in the Subsistence version. Now in 2011, Bluepoint Games were brought in to remaster Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, and Peace Walker in the HD collection, released on PS3, 360, and Vita. While this version of the game was based on Subsistence, they cut a lot of content from Subsistence. I made a video a while back where I cover all of the cut content from this release, but to sum it all up, they cut everything except the original 2 MSX games. They even took out the Guy Savage sequence within the main game, and all of the conversations that went along with it. And to skip forward a little bit, this is what the Masters Collection release is based on. The Master Collection of the game has been updated to support 4K on modern platforms, but otherwise it's largely the same game as HD Collection. The Master Collection on Switch, however, is staying at 30 FPS and 720p. There are, however, those Master Collection bonuses such as the digital screenplay and Masterbook. From a visual stance, this is by far the best the original game can look, but there is the hint of bitterness to know how much is missing from the PS2. Not to say anything of the 3DS version though. Metal Gear Solid 3D Snake Eater is certainly the most unique version of the game. Firstly, all the removed content from Subsistence still applies. This is just the main game with the behind-the-shoulder camera. No 8-bit Metal Gear games either. While it downgrades in resolution and frame rate, it boasts a big gameplay feature in being able to crouch walk and aim while walking. Other additions include of course 3D, touchscreen inventory, a photo camo mode that lets you make your own custom camo patterns based on the 3DS camera gallery, the little visual indicators to better see if your shots or tranquilizers land taken from Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, and Yoshi. They replaced all the Kirtan collectibles in the game, or shootables I guess. Although the game suffers a bit from these performance concessions for being on 3DS, they arguably make up for it with the crouch walking and movable aiming. It's borderline game changing. What also helps with this is that the game supports the Circlepad Pro, or the C-Stick if you're using a new 3DS. Otherwise, you are stuck using the face buttons to control the camera, but it's not like it's impossible to get used to. Honestly, if you have a 3DS, especially a modded one, and you want to try this game out, this is such a cool and viable way to play the game. And that's all the iterations of Metal Gear Solid 3, not including Delta. Although most people are probably going to be looking at Delta first, the original Metal Gear Solid 3 will always be worth playing. And hopefully this video gives you a good insight to what each version has to offer, or not offer. Thanks for watching, and until next time.